Welcome, everyone, to the Sci Fi Queens podcast, where we celebrate all things sci fi, especially the women in sci fi, real women in science, sci fi book authors, and sci fi TV and movies as well. And if you're new to our channel, we welcome you and we ask that you hit that subscribe and notification bell so you know when our episodes are coming up. We really would appreciate it as it'll help our channel grow. If you want to support our channel, check out our website that's scrolling at the bottom of the page, sci-fi queens.net. It has information on the queens, information on our episodes, and it's has a link to our merch store. I am your host, Nita, and tonight we have my special co-host, the Queen of Darkness, Sarah, joining us, and a very special guest, Mel from Mel's Rebellion. And Tiffany
Yay!
should be on her way, as you know, running a little late.
Yes.
But she will be here, hopefully. So we're talking tonight about sci-fi and time travel. But before we get into that, let's check in on our panel here. Mel, how are you doing? What's going on with you?
I'm great. I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much. Um, I do a YouTube and my social media. I am a sci-fi author. My first book just came out. My first sci-fi book just came out, Unrooting the System. And yeah, you can find it on my website, Mel's Rebellion. And let's chat. I'm excited.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And Sarah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm on vacation, so I'm having fun.
You see, but you took no vacation from the podcast. You are such a dedicated
Yes.
queen of
Yep.
darkness.
I'm
We can't do
here.
this without you.
I'm here. Yep.
Absolutely. So we're going to be talking about sci-fi and time travel, and different episodes and movies that have embraced that concept of time travel. And we're going to talk about the pros and the cons of time travel, and how is it that it works. And we have the queen of nerds coming in with us. Hey,
Yay!
yes, full
Welcome,
house
Tiffany.
tonight. How are you doing, Tiffany, before we begin?
I'm good. I'm good. But let me just say that I'm old now, so my back is killing me. But I'm it's fine. It's time. Take me out. Just take me out. But no, I'm good. How y'all doing?
Oh no, oh no. But we're gonna hop right into our segment. Um and we're going to be let's talk about a little bit about some of the episodes in Star Trek that have dealt with time travel. These are kind of honorable mentions here. We have from Star Trek, the original series, The City on the Edge of Forever. We have
Mm-hmm.
yesterday's Enterprise from TNG. We have Trials and Tribulations from Deep Space Nine, one of my favorite episodes. All Good Things from TNG. Endgame from Voyager. Tomorrow is Yesterday from the TOS series. Little Green Men from Deep Space Nine, and Year of Hell from Voyager. Now, I'm going to let our guest pick whichever episode she wants to start talking about, and we're going to follow your lead as you are our guest. So, Mel, which one would you like to discuss?
um, Trials and Tribulation. that was that
Oh,
was such
yes.
that was such a geek out episode. It was so much fun to see them interact and to go back to the original series. And when I saw that, I was familiar with the original series, but I hadn't seen most of it. It was something that my dad watched when I was a kid. I didn't see it. I didn't fully watch it until college. So it was like, oh, this is my Star Trek, and it's blending in with my dad's Star Trek.
The merging of the generations.
Yeah.
And what was your favorite part of this series? Like, as far as this episode, as far as the time travel portion, like, what do you think How do you think they handle time travel here? Because the Federation has strict rules about time travel. So
Yeah. Well, the thing that stood out the most to me was the Klingon issue, where it's like, oh, we don't talk about that. When it's just like, we're not going to break the fourth wall, but we kind of are.
Yeah.
Most of it kind of was, especially with it not blending in as well as it probably could have. Um, as far as the Federation, it's like, a lot of times they do things where they're not supposed to do stuff, but they're pretty justified. Like, you kind of get it. You don't still
Yeah.
see them as bad guys, even though they're doing something wrong. Or
exactly.
wrong.
Yeah. So Sarah, what do you think of that episode, Trials and Tribulations from Deep Space Nine, and the
I really
time
like.
travel of it?
I really liked it, and that they tried really hard to not make any changes. Like they had to follow the path and not screw it up because they knew how it was supposed to work out. So that when you know the end game, sometimes that's hard. Like
Right.
what if you do one misstep? What if you bump into somebody and then they're late and then something else happens? It triggers down that trying to walk that fine line and not make any changes, but still do what you got to do while you're there.
Exactly. It is a fine line. Absolutely.
Mhm.
And I think that was something that I think that they kind of walked really well in. And I, as a TOS original Star Trek girly, love the merging. And that was one of my favorite episodes of the original series because I love the Tribbles episode. And it was my first experience with Klingons, first time seeing Klingons. And I'm a Klingon obsessed girl. So that episode to me was so well done. I mean, but can Captain Cisco do anything wrong? Not in my eyes.
Not even-
So, Tiffany, what about you?
I haven't
How do
seen
you
it.
think they handled what?
I'm not time girly. I'm sorry.
I'm having a moment. Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
But I
In
have
this
seen
platform,
Voyager,
it
so I can't
happens.
comment on the Voyager episode.
So why don't you take the next one and talk about the Voyager episode? Which
Okay, I'm
Voyager
gonna
you
I'm
want to
gonna do
talk about?
your tell. I'm gonna do your tell. So in that one, I think the biggest thing for me, because I feel like we've seen the kind of time travel that happens in that one with the temporal weapon and all of that a bunch of
Yes.
times in several different like properties. So I think in that one, I like that there was a way to undo everything. Everything went magically back to how it was. There wasn't any real like consequences. It was like,
Yeah.
they could fix it. So there was always hope they could fix everything. All the stuff they went through. I think it was like a year that they were going through all of that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's what I liked about it. Everything was back to
Absolutely.
normal. We didn't have to live with any consequences.
Yeah. And how about you, Mel? How did you like how they handled the time travel issue in Year of Hell and Voyager?
Hmm. Kind of the way that they handle most things when they're in that situation where they're just trying to do their best, regardless of what the outcome is going to be. So, um, you know, just that strive to make it in general was pretty inspiring.
Absolutely. Sarah, what are your thoughts
Oh,
on the time travel aspect of this episode?
I don't think I've seen that one because I
That's
never finished
okay.
Voyager, so I
Really? I
can't
thought you
comment.
would have.
No, I didn't finish. I didn't finish DS9 because I got pissed when they killed Jadzia, and then I didn't finish Voyager because life happened. So,
Yeah, yeah.
So
you
why
know,
don't you do the next pick? If you have one that you want to pick from
The
this.
City on the Edge of Forever is one of my favorite TOS
Mhm.
episodes.
Yeah.
Um, and they just gung ho, let's go do this, and not realizing that. I mean, they do realize, but it's kind of the first time we see time travel in Trek. So,
Yeah.
and trying not to make changes, but still survive. That's that
Yeah.
same theme that to make it through until, either you age out or you get rescued or whatever. and then have the least impact as possible. Because what if this isn't an alternate timeline? What if this is your timeline and you do something wrong and then poof, you
Absolutely.
don't exist? It's that
Hmm.
but on that same, we'll get to that later. Um, just that I thought it was interesting and I liked it. I mean, it's one of those things that I could watch that episode over and over again.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just one of
I
them things.
love that Kirk was in his true Kirk form, trying to
Yeah,
save the girl.
yeah,
And
Ye-
he had to literally be physically held back by Spock because he was so determined that she wouldn't die. But her death had a purpose.
yeah.
And I think that
She
yeah,
had a predetermined destiny, and and that becomes part of the problem. Is like, do you mess with the timeline or do you let the girl die? And I mean,
exactly.
that is a trope that we see in time travel. Um,
Yes,
and
yes,
that is like,
absolutely.
and then it comes back around to the goods of the many out, or the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and
Hmm.
that it always comes back to that. And it's like you have to sacrifice somebody for everybody else to survive. And
Absolutely, yes.
and again, it's that razor edge that you got to walk.
Yeah,
Are you going to make the
absolutely.
change and doom people, or are you going to just let it happen? And
Yeah.
that's part of that. That is a trope in time travel. Is the you let the girl die. The girl has to die for the future to be exist.
Hmm.
The girl has to die. But then there's also the don't make any changes. You know. So I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a perfect segue to what we could be talking about next, which is a classic time travel,
Yes.
fun, comedic movie. And it's so funny that I've never
Ooh.
really thought about this movie, Back to the Future, as a sci-fi, but it truly is
Mhm.
because
Hold on,
time
Nita.
travel is sci-fi.
We have a comment from Devin.
Oh, bring it on up.
I'm trying to. Hold on.
I'll do that. No worries. Oh, you
I,
got it.
I got it. There you go. Why couldn't they take Edith with them like they took Jillian in the voyage home? And I, I don't know that they probably could have, but they didn't realize that they could, and maybe that's why they do take Jillian later because they didn't take Edith.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I
So
think that her taking her out of the timeline alive
Mhm.
wouldn't have the same impact as letting her die.
Right, because her
Mhm.
death served a purpose.
Exactly, exactly. And in the voyage home, there was a purpose in bringing her. No one knew what to do with these animals. They hadn't
Right.
been around, so they sort of needed her there. So
Hmm.
that kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah.
There's a scientific kind of justification that they can bring up to
Different kinds of
the
time
Yeah.
travel.
Federation.
Different kinds of time.
Tiffany, say that again.
I said it's different kinds of time travel. So
Hmm.
just like we're gonna talk about tonight in each one of the movies, because I wrote down what kind of time travel is in each one. So in each one of the movies, there's different rules for time travel. So just like in those episodes, there were two different sets of rules. Like one was
Right.
like pre time travel, and then the other one it was not like a fixed loop. They could change it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So since you have all the information written down, you can't say things like that here. You get in trouble. So you're going to start with the Back to the Future, and
Mhm.
talk to us about the type of time travel that was
Okay.
happening here.
Can you guys hear me good? Because I know I'm using my headphones, so is
It's
that
a
bad?
little low, but we
Okay.
can. I
I'm
can
a,
hear you. I don't know
Yeah.
about anyone else. Can they hear you?
I turned my volume up so I can hear her.
Yeah, me too.
We're good.
Okay, can you?
Better.
Better. Yes.
Hmm.
Okay, better. Okay. All right.
Yes.
So the time travel rules in Back to the Future is a dynamic timeline, so alternate realities. So when Marty changes things, it creates a new timeline. So it's not like he's actually altering the past,
Yeah.
apparently.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's the kind of time travel that's used in this. The rules are changes to the past directly alter the future, creating new timelines. And Marty's actions rewrite history, like his parents not meeting, erasing his existence. And one thing I will note from these movies, why they always got to make him and his mama fall in love? Like what's happening here?
Ew, ick
Yeah,
factor.
it's that girl, the save the girl thing, and yeah,
But the girl is related to him.
yeah, but it's so
I
cringe.
think they could have done without that particular storyline. They could have
Right.
gone any which way they wanted to. I think they purposely wanted an ick factor on that one. What do you think, Mel?
I think that they could have had a connect. He could have had a deep connection with his mom without it being romantic in some
Yes.
way. Like I think I somehow think about if I had met my son as a 10-year-old and we could play as 10-year-olds, like what that would be, because we got so much in common. Like,
Right.
why can't y'all just be like really cool friends?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or
No,
learn
they gotta
something
make 'em
cool
fall in
about
love.
your mom that is inspiring. Like,
Right.
Mhm.
or
Right.
maybe my mom wouldn't be, maybe she should have pursued this, even
Mhm.
though she had me and a family and stuff. That would have been a cool
Mhm.
So I have a
mental health
question
way.
for you guys about this movie. Did the time travel work, or the storyline of the time travel work for you guys, or was it missing something? Because I think that the purpose was because he wanted to fix his life. He felt like a loser. He felt like he was, not the popular kid, and he was always getting sort of the short end of the stick in his life. Um, and time traveling, he wanted to make those changes. So
Mhm.
how do you all feel about him time traveling to make personal changes on this quest of his? Sarah, you first.
I thought it was kind of. I mean, I think this was one of the first time travel movies that I know that I watched for sure.
Yes, me
And that
too.
it's that personal gratification that I'm going to change the timeline to make my life better. But then you don't think about, when you do that, again, what are the consequences of that? Like his
Mhm.
dad and his mom and him have, their lives are improved. But then look at Biff. I mean, Biff was a jackass anyways, but he didn't need to be, how I don't even know what he was before, but then now he's spit shine in the car and like kind of like a
Right.
servant.
Right.
It's like wait,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
wait, couldn't there be some sort of middle ground? And I mean, I know that's part of the storyline and the trope of it that and that's how they did the second and the third one. So the second one was
Mhm.
fixing the screw ups from the first one, and it just sometimes that rubs me raw because it's like if Marty wasn't so selfish, I think if he just survived and got the crap out of there, that maybe obviously the next two movies wouldn't happen because that shit wouldn't happen. Which is it's writing and story. You got to make storylines, but that was a choice,
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
and we'd all have to be in that position to have to ask that choice because this is going to sound stupid. My therapist asked me sometimes, like, if I could go back to when I was, 15, what would I tell myself and what would I change? And I said, well, honestly, I don't want to change anything because I wouldn't have Leah. I wouldn't, and we've talked about this. I wouldn't have Leah. I wouldn't have all the things that I've accomplished
Mhm.
and be where I'm at now if I changed even one thing,
Yeah.
even though some of those things are god awful and I've been through hell and back, but I wouldn't change them. I'd have to do it again exactly the same way to get where I'm at now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's it comes down to your personal, and this is something that we don't really think would be associated with time travel, but I think morality should be, because and that may be, that's part of the trope and the underlying lesson too, is that just because we can change things, should we change them?
Mhm. Yeah.
Absolutely. How about you, Mel? What are your thoughts?
When I saw it first, I was a small kid, and seeing a teenager irrationally trying to fix mistakes in their past made sense. And now thinking about it as an adult, it's like
Mhm.
all of the power and wisdom that I do have came from all those terrible things that happen or
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
unfortunate things that
Exactly.
happen. I can't take those things back because the power and strength that I do have now, I wouldn't have. I would be like kind of pathetic, I think,
Right?
if I
I
didn't
was
go
the
through
same
those
boat.
things. Like someone who's spoiled, who doesn't think, but it makes
Mhm.
sense for to make a whole story around what would a 16-year-old do if they could go
Yeah.
back in time and
Yep.
change what they think should be changed, and what lesson would they learn. They would learn the
Right.
lesson of appreciating what they have.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How about you, Tiffany? Oh, we lost Tiffany. I'm
Oh,
sure
she'll
she's
be back.
gonna be back.
She'll be
She'll
right
be
back.
back. She'll be back. She'll be right back. No worries. Technical
She'll
difficulties.
return.
These are the
She'll
things
return after
that
this
happen.
commercial break.
So I'm gonna go instead of Tiffany. I wish I was as grown up as the two of you. I would so go back in time and make changes. I just would. I would. I don't know. Invest in Apple. Tell myself to invest in have more money today.
Well,
I
now,
don't know.
now
I
that's
think
different. I might tell myself to like put some money into something, but like not
right.
not big awful changes. Not like, oh, don't go to that house on that day, and don't get up and don't get out of bed on
Yes,
this
see,
day.
that's where like I'm a little bit on the fence because it would be so nice to erase certain things, but again, those things
Mhm.
make us who we are.
Yep.
That past makes us who we are. So do we embrace the reality of it? Because I
Yep.
think that the idea with these individuals going back in time is that they would do things differently. But the reality is that they're not really doing things differently. They're just making changes. And she is
Well,
back.
and
Technical
then there's
difficulties.
also then there's also that, like, because I watched that movie last night. I watched Deja Vu with Denzel Washington and Val Kilmer last night. And if you're not paying attention, you don't catch it. But like, he's investigating a crime, and then he goes back, and like all the things that were in the crime scene that he thought maybe were something else were things that he had done. So it's like, was he? It gets to that point. Was like, was this always destined to happen? Was he always predestined to go back to try and save the girl? You know what I mean? And, and then
Exactly.
and then you think you're going to go back and change something, but what if it was already written that way? What if fate already had that in plan for you, that you were going to go back and make this attempt? And and then there's also that, I know it's probably not on the list, but like the time machine, how he's always trying to save the girl, and he never would have built a time machine if the girl didn't die. So she
Exactly.
always has to die because he wouldn't have, and it comes back to
It's
the
that
girl has to die.
cycle of
Yeah.
that cycle that he's trying to break, but time is not as linear in his
Mhm.
movies as
Yeah,
one
and
thinks.
there's certain fixed things that have to happen,
Hmm.
because like that, like if event A doesn't trigger, your rage, your angst, your desire to fix that event, then there's no reason for you to be back here in the past anyways. Or even
Exactly. Hmm.
like, because then it's like, if this doesn't happen, then you're not going back. So that, yeah, it's like you just continue on. So then
Exactly.
it's just, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm off on a
That's
tangent.
okay. That's okay. We're gonna move on to our next movie that
Okay.
has a different type
Mhm.
of time travel.
Yes, it does.
Tiffany,
Yes.
explain to us with your awesomeness.
My notes.
Hmm.
Okay, so this one is the type of time travel is a dynamic timeline, the chaos theory based time travel. So
Hmm.
small changes in the past have massive, unpredictable consequences to the future, i.e., the butterfly effect. I love this movie so much. So
Me too.
much. It's so heartbreaking though. All he wants to do is save her, basically. Same kind of, time travel,
Back to
save
it
the
again.
girl. Save the girl trope. But he's trying to revisit his past, but he can't. Each event he changes, drastically has effects in the future. Like sometimes a little bit better, but not always. Never what he wants though.
Yeah.
It never turns out the way he wants it to, of course.
It's this whole, oh, I'm gonna save her, but then other people are harmed in the process of making that change. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So Mel, have
And
you
then-
seen The Butterfly Effect?
I saw it a very long time ago. I don't remember it very well, but I know that it's referenced all the time.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everything else.
Well,
Like in
and
Flash,
I think
the Flash did it too.
Yeah.
I think with this movie more than any of the
Yeah,
others,
he did.
you actually see the morality of making the changes because he
Yes,
sees
agree.
the actual evidence of his actions, and you know what I mean, because it comes back to the morality of it. Like, should you make the changes, and just him being selfish and wanting to do this, and then here are the consequences. Well, sometimes we don't see those consequences, or it's like
Exactly.
the different kind of time travel. Like, oh well,
Mhm.
make changes, and now we have an entirely new timeline, and it's happy
Yeah,
and happy go lucky. But like,
yeah.
what about the other timeline? What happened to them?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
I mean,
what Mel
I
just mentioned, the Flash, how he did it in the Flashpoint.
Oh
Like that's
God,
one of my favorite things. But also he lost
Yeah.
his powers. He
Oh,
lost
yeah.
his powers because he wants to save his
Yeah.
mom from dying. So you choose between
Yeah.
your powers and saving millions of other people when you save the world versus
Yep.
your mom dying and your dad getting framed for murder. Like it was
Yep.
like the biggest thing
yeah.
that he could
Yeah,
ever
it's
do.
that it goes back to the needs of the many versus the needs of the few.
Mhm.
Yep.
Spock's logic is always with us.
Yep.
He is. He's always with us. And I think that though we laugh, but it is true. And I
Yeah.
think this movie really does identify that very
Yeah.
much so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Where there's you want to save her, and that's honorable and that's lovely.
Mhm.
But every time you change something to save her, someone else's life is horrible. No limbs.
His own
Yeah.
life, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought this movie was actually kind of scary because this kind of like made me terrified of time travel, because like
Mhm.
before this movie, time travel was always kind of depicted as happy-go-lucky, and it's okay to change stuff, and oh, nothing will happen, and nobody's gonna get hurt. But like this movie's like
They're like
in your face with like, this is what's gonna happen. And
Mhm.
I honestly think that if time travel was real, it would be more like this. Just because when you come back forward, you're gonna see the consequences of your changes right away, and it's
Well,
not gonna
I
be
think that because in this particular movie, time is linear.
Yeah.
In Back to the Future, there were alternate timelines that were created, while here it's like, no, it's a singular timeline, and you're kind of collapsing it and changing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the movies are a test of show of like the time they were made into, because I know like the Back to the Future, it was that time of movies all about teens doing teen stuff, teen angst,
Yeah.
and,
Well, and then
and this one
and
was, like, around,
Michael
like-
J. Fox was filming this one. Well, he's filming Back to the Future and Teen Wolf at the exact same time.
See, right.
So it was
like
all about
teen angst. Right.
Yep.
Whereas in this era, like in the early 2000s, it was all about like, it was the same era as like Final Destination and like
and
Scream, like
Disturbia
movies,
and all that.
of
Yeah.
that. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So it was like that era of movie making that they made it in. It also affects how they depict time travel. I think it's not as romanticized
Exactly.
as it is in other
Exactly.
times.
Even though they
Yeah.
had the save the girl trope of time travel, there really
Of
was
course.
nothing romantic in
It was
this movie.
disturbing. No.
It was disturbing,
Mhm.
very
Yeah.
disturbing. So, what do you think, Mel? You kind of been quiet. We don't want quiet guests. We want you to be loud like
Well,
us.
she
You
said
gotta
she
get
didn't
in there.
I don't remember the butterfly effect that well,
Let's go.
but
to the next one. She
this
might
is
remember the
making me
next one better.
think. Oh, this is making me think of other time travels that don't have that trope of saving the girl, and one
Yeah.
particularly where they are the girl they're trying to save. So,
Oh, which one?
Absolutely.
Which one?
Newspaper Girls was just
Oh,
so
yeah.
awesome.
Yes.
I love
Yes.
that, and
Wait,
like
isn't
them
that the one that we
confronting.
did?
We did
Which one
we
did
did an episode on the entire comic of Newspaper
Mhm,
Girls.
Yep.
It has
Yeah.
a series on, I think,
Mhm.
I want to say Netflix or Amazon. It's only one
It was
season.
on
it only got one
Amazon.
season.
It was okay. It was
on
Amazon.
Amazon. Mhm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was so disappointed it ended.
Yeah.
Me too. I thought that was great. I thought they were going to go into that whole time travel.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It was
But
fun.
let's go
The
on to the
comics were
next
good.
one.
that's a
Yep.
good one.
Let's go on to our next movie. And we're going to start with Tiffany because she's going to tell us the time travel rules.
My notes. Okay, type of time travel is a predestination paradox. Predestination paradox or the closed loop. So the things that
Yep.
happen in the past affect the future affects the past. But there's two types of time travel that happen in this movie: the closed loop and then like the time dilation when they enter the planets.
Yeah.
So the closed loop, so the future events or the future humans, affect the past ones. Like so for instance, Murphy in her room, she's affecting what happens to
Yep.
him in the future, and vice versa. Him being in the
Mhm.
fifth dimension, affecting the bookshelf affects what happens to her in the past. Like
Yeah.
it's a closed loop of things that are happening. And then with the planets, I know on one of the planets, Miller's planet was like a water
Yeah.
world with like
Yeah.
extreme time dilation.
Yeah, it was like what, like it was like 4 days or
23
something, and it was only
years.
like, oh,
Yeah, 1
it's just-
hour equals
oh.
7 years on Earth.
Yeah,
on
it's
that
like we
one.
got to
Well,
get
that
off of
blew
this.
my mind. That blew
Yeah.
my mind. The whole literal time of 7
Yeah.
years equals. That really was well done.
Yeah.
I thought.
So they lost
Yeah.
23 years. Like he aged so much, the man they left on the ship. When they came back,
Yeah.
he was so much older, and they lost 23 years of time just going to that planet. And Miller died minutes
Yes.
before they got there, but for him it was like
This
years.
this movie always reminds me of that Twilight Zone episode where the astronaut decides to go into cryospace because he wants to wait for the girl, and she doesn't. She goes into cryospace, but he doesn't, and the age and that whole thing with being in space and time travel.
Yes.
I love Twilight Zone. It was a good episode. Mel, have you seen this movie? Have you have
I
thoughts
have-
on?
Oh,
I'm
this
so
is such
sorry,
a good
Mommy.
movie.
It's so good. I love
This
this
is such
movie.
a good one. It's long. It's like an epic. How I would describe it is like an epic, like
Yes.
sweeping drama, but with time travel, and you have to watch
Yeah,
it to
and
the end
you
to even know.
and you
what's
got to
going
pay
on.
attention because
Yes.
like
Yeah.
stuff from the beginning that may
Absolutely.
not seem like anything
It's
play
gonna
in
come
later.
at
I
the
know my
end.
my
Yeah.
my stepmom couldn't watch it. She's like, I can't do time
Keep
travel
up.
movies. She's like, because she can't handle when things like when we watch movies or if they do like if they're flashing back and forth. She can't handle when they change like if
Mhm.
there's a flashback or something. She's like, where is the story? What is happening? She needs
Right.
it to be A to B. She doesn't want to
But-
go A to Z and back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like this, and it's
But-
it's one of my favorite movies. Go ahead, Tiffany. Sorry.
For anybody who hasn't seen it, though, this movie is about a group of astronauts who leave Earth to go and find some missing astronauts that went out before them. They're all looking for a better planet because something has happened on Earth and Earth is not really habitable anymore. So they're leaving Earth to try to find other planets. So there's a group of astronauts that go out before them, and the planets that they're looking at like orbit a black hole. And so
Yes.
each one of the planets is dilated in time differently. So like we said, on the one planet, I won't give away all the planets, but on one planet, like 1 hour equaled 23 years for them. Like, so they left one of their members on the ship, and when they came back, he was older, of course, because 1 hour equals 23 years. And so each one of the planets that they're looking for these astronauts, they have to choose because they don't have all the time in the world because of the time dilation. They have to choose which one they're going to save. And in the end, the story is all about him and his daughter. That's all I'll say.
Yes.
So that should give you just a little brief thing to go into it with. But it's
Yes.
it's such a good movie.
It definitely is. And if you are a fan of time travel, this is definitely different from other time travel
Mhm,
movies
mhm.
because it does talk about that time dilation,
Yeah,
which is not really seen too often.
yeah.
Um, in when it comes to science fiction, but TNG did an episode where there
Mhm.
was a bit of that going on, where Data's head is found as an artifact,
Mhm,
and there's that
Mhm.
time dilation
mhm,
there.
mhm.
Yeah.
So I see Mel smiling. You must have seen the episode.
When
Oh,
you
and
said
then
that, I thought of Star Trek Prodigy, where there's an episode where each of the
Oh
Yes.
characters are in
yeah.
their own time
oh
dilation.
yeah, and how Rocket is in the slowest one, and she has to solve everything, and she's
Yeah.
like,
Mhm.
"I'm so lonely."
Oh, that
Poor,
one made
poor
me
kid.
cry though. Because the
Yeah.
whole time she
Mhm.
was like, I don't want to be security. Everyone just sees me as this big, strong monster thing. And that's
Well,
not her personality at all. And she had
I
all
want
that
to
time in the world
be.
to come out and be something else. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my
Yep.
God.
Mhm.
I so love that character in Prodigy. I feel like it represents so many of us, where we're seen as something, but we know we're something else, and there's that
Mhm.
struggle, in whether that's within your own family or society or whatever. I
Mhm.
think that that's all kind of. She just embodies that, and she's fantastic character. Um,
Yeah.
but let's go on to our last movie, The Time Traveler's Wife. Tiffany, take it away.
So, the time traveler's wife focuses on the predestination paradox or the fixed timeline. So, his time travel is involuntary and biological. It's a genetic condition for him. So, the events that happen must happen. Like sometimes he even meets himself, and that just influences. This picture you have actually though is from the actual series that they had on HBO Max,
Mhm.
The Time Traveler's Wife, which was also so good. I'm so mad they only did one season. But it's the same as the movie. Same things happen. His jumps are uncontrollable. He wants to change things, but he can't change anything. Basically,
Yeah.
when he tries to change something, it's exactly what he would have done anyway. So
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
gonna happen
Mhm.
anyway. It's gonna happen anyway,
Yep.
and it's
And it
it's such
takes
a
us back
sad.
to that
Yeah,
whole, if we time travel, wouldn't we do the same things because we are who
yeah.
we are
We
kind
are.
of
We are
concept.
exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No changes
Yeah.
allowed. The timeline is self-consistent. You can't. There's nothing to be
Well,
done, which
and
is
that
sad.
like you think you're gonna change something, and you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna change this," but then you find out like you
It's
you
what you
you
always would have
you didn't
did.
make it. That was what you were always gonna do, and that's
Hmm.
that the timeline allowed for that, and that was already
Yeah.
pre-written because
Yeah.
you wouldn't be back to that closed loop that you wouldn't
Yeah.
be
Absolutely.
where you are
Yeah.
here if this XYZ hadn't happened over here, and then
Hmm.
Mhm.
yeah, and it's just
So I have a
oh.
I
question for
loved it.
each of you to think about. Um, Time travel, good or bad? Tiffany, you start.
I think that it has its places. So I know like some of the time travel tropes are not good. Like I think having it to be like where you can't change anything, I think that's the best kind. Just because you can see what's gonna happen. Like in that one, he knew exactly when he was gonna die. Like he knew, so he didn't take things for granted. He knew that one day at this age, because he knew how he looked. He didn't know his exact age, but he knew when he started getting gray or when he said he was like, my time is coming.
Yeah.
He knew what age his daughter was going to
Absolutely.
be. So it kind of, he knew what was going to happen. And I also think that in that one, it was touching that he eventually did get to see his daughter again because how his time travel worked. It wasn't exact. He wasn't always going in order. So, things, and
Yes.
I think in the TV show, they explored better as far as how he wasn't really going in order than they do in the movie. So it goes more with the book because
Yes.
it's based on a book. So it goes more with the book. So
Hmm.
I think that's my favorite kind of time travel.
How about you, Mel? Time travel, good or bad? Positive or
Um,
negative?
as far as humans actually doing it, we should never have that power. Um, as
Ooh,
far as
girl.
storytelling, we should go all out. Like,
Yeah.
Right?
I think, like, even when we have like different ways of doing time travel, those are just other ways of expressing how humans deal with issues. And we
Mhm.
should do that. I really think that as far as storytelling, we should be doing it as much as possible. But as far as actually sending humans back in time, messing with the timeline, I don't want to
What if
know.
they're already doing it? What if they're already doing it and we don't know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
What if
true.
we're living in the
Stop.
That's like when they talk about, well, like when they talk about what is it, the Mandela effect on the internet and stuff,
Mhm.
like
Yes.
what how
Mhm.
we remember things are a certain way, but things then we like go and look it up and like, oh no, that's not that way. It's like, no, I
Yep.
remember it.
They
How
messed up
can
the
Yeah.
it?
timeline.
Yeah,
That just
Mhm.
drives me crazy when I know that something is a certain way and it had been growing up this way. And where is it
mhm.
now? Why isn't it reflected this way?
Mhm.
That drives me crazy. But Sarah, positive or negative on the time
Um,
travel?
I think I'm with Mel. I think it is a good way for us to discuss and deal with issues. And like I'm a big Doctor Who fan, so like they do, they go back in time and look at things because they're
Yes.
wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff. So like they go back, but they can't, they don't make any changes,
Yeah.
and they've even dealt with that closed loop paradox, like when when River kills the Doctor, but the Doctor's there, and it's like what the you know,
Mhm.
but but and we should talk about those things because that is, it comes back to the morality, and
Mhm.
I appreciate when it's not, when they talk about the morality and like the butterfly effect versus the save the girl, because I think that people sometimes need to be reminded about the consequences of their actions, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that if it's done through media, it's a little bit easier to take sometimes. Maybe it's a little bit of a subtler lesson.
Mhm.
But I don't think that I mean, if we were able to go back and observe but not have any impact on it, that would be
Yeah.
neat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like if we went back and we stayed out of it and didn't mess with anything, that would be interesting because then we could actually see, some things that we missed, or things that certain people say happen this way, like kind of like the Mandela effect. We would be able to go back and look at it and know for sure, but without having any impact on it. But I
Yeah.
honestly, yeah, I don't trust humans. So I don't think that we need that power. I mean, observation, yes, but actually making changes, hell no. Because, you know, things could always get worse. And, people
Yeah.
think, oh well, like when specifically in Doctor Who, when uh River first came out and she's like, let's go kill Hitler. Well, what if they killed Hitler and somebody worse took his place?
Yeah,
You know,
that's always the argument. If you do this, will something worse happen?
you
And
know, you
I
hope
am
it's
with
going to be
yeah,
better, but yeah.
yeah, I'm with Mel as well. Where in sci-fi, that is a concept and to definitely explore, make all the movies, write all the books. I'm there for
Mhm.
it. But in reality, can we trust humanity with that level of technology, with that level of knowledge? That will be terrifyingly frightening because who gets to decide who goes back and what gets changed?
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
And then,
Can
yeah,
we
exactly
trust
that.
those individuals,
Right.
and I think that historically we can see that no, we cannot trust the powers that be to make the right decisions.
Well, and you find the most moral person in the world and you send them back to make changes, what's to stop them from making changes for
Yeah.
personal gain while they're there instead of just doing what they're supposed to do? Because
Because
people
I
are,
can tell you, you sent me. I am making personal changes and I will not have any control. I'm
right.
making personal changes. I won't have any control. I am just gonna fess up to it. Yeah, I would be so incredibly tempted to go see
Mhm.
my younger self and say, "Hey, stay away from blah blah blah," because
Yeah.
I would. I
Mhm.
absolutely would. That would be something that I couldn't could I. It's too tempting a concept not to go back and go, hey, don't cross the street. You broke your ankle doing that. Like it just would be too
Mhm.
much. much. But we're gonna go and move on to our next segment where Tiffany's gonna talk about what she has been watching and what she's gonna be recommending. Take it away, Tiffany.
Okay, so Tales from the Loop. This is like, imagine if, I'm sorry, I'm getting my notes. Imagine if like your weirdest like childhood daydreams were like come to life. Robots wandering empty fields, time freezes in the middle of a snowstorm, that kind of thing. It's like the vibe is like a Twilight Zone, but if it was directed by a Swedish painter. Because this series is based on a group of paintings from Simon Stålenhag, surreal art. Every like show, every episode looks like a frozen like in time painting. It's
Yes, it
beautifully
does.
shot. There's no aliens, no explosions, just like ordinary people encountering like impossible machines and dealing with emotional fallout. So like think Stranger Things without Demogorgons or Black Mirror with more like quiet, aching sadness. There's a small town, and beneath it, there's the Loop, a mysterious underground lab where scientists build reality bending tech. But instead of like world domination, the inventions just kind of exist and like blend into the background like forgotten toys. So these people always encounter these extraordinary machines and things go wrong every time. But each story is self-contained, but also connected. So all the characters are connected to each other, but there's a different story dealing with a different piece of tech from the Loop in each episode. Like just
Absolutely.
for instance, I won't give it away, but one of the episodes, a group of teenagers finds a machine that lets them freeze time, and they're just there together for like undetermined amount of time. But they're teenagers, so it doesn't work out to where they live happily ever after. There is a consequence where they unfreeze, and nobody else knows time was frozen, but they've lived all this time together and they've changed. So there's consequences with the tech. So like think of like, it's not a real trope that happens in the show, but think of like if you swap bodies with your dad, like a machine that helped you swap bodies, and then your dad was like, I like being young, I'm gonna stay in this body, and you never got your body back. Like it's just weird. There's a lot of weird things that happen in the show. But
It's a really good show, though.
it really is. It really
Yeah.
is. And I think there's only 8 episodes. And so
Yeah.
if you just turn off your phone and just let it take you on a wave of
Yes.
nostalgia, because it's like from a forgotten time. It's like set in like 80s nostalgia type feeling. Because the machines don't look futuristic at all. They seem like something we could build, now. But it's just there's emotional fallout after each episode. I'll just say that.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
really good.
And
Prime Video.
your next one.
So different from that one.
Haha.
This one is reality warping, alternate realities and parallel universes, that kind of thing. This one is his Dark Materials. And if you've ever seen the movie The Golden Compass, this is based on the same, series as that movie was. They planned on making more, but they never did. So I think there's 4, maybe 3 seasons of this. I can't remember. But in the world that they start off in, everybody has a demon, like an animal that contains their
Yes.
soul. Right.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
there's a lot of like religious kind of tropes in this one, but it's not
Yeah.
religious-y. So if you're like, oh, I don't want to watch this because I don't want to talk about, religion, but there's tropes in it that like explore those, like, oh, well, what if the angels didn't want us, dealing with this kind of stuff? What if they wanted this? Like, what if they wanted to change things? Like, it's like, I don't really know how to describe it without telling what happened. But
It is a really good show
Yeah.
to binge, though, too.
It
Yeah.
really is. Lyra is the main character, and she receives the alethiometer, which helps her read, like tells her what to do almost. It's like she can ask it questions and it can guide her along her way. There's so many things that happen in this series, from them going to an alternate world, from like their life, like predestined fate and magic. There's witches. There's talking armored bears. There's so much that happens in this series. So I recommend this. Like, if somebody wants to have a series to binge, like you said, Nita, like highest of highest on the list of just sit down and watch it. It is so good, and it's
Yes,
an all-star cast.
absolutely.
Like the cast is
Yes.
all-star.
Good.
All-star.
It is really, and
Mhm.
they do an amazing job. The actors
Yes.
are very amazing.
Yes, they do.
We're gonna move on to our next segment. We're gonna talk about a sci-fi book recommendation. All right. Well, we have a kind. I have a kind of a surprise, because the author is with us. Oh yeah, baby! I did it again. Unrooting the System. Oh, this book. This book is. I'm gonna read what I have because I had to write it down. It is just so good. First of all, it is written by our very special guest, Mel, right here, Unrooting the System. This is an amazing story of faith, aliens, capitalism in the most wonderfully written sci fi perspective. The story touches on the control that religion has over an alien race that is plants, plant-based aliens. Never have I heard about that before. This is so unique a concept. Absolutely, I love it. And I don't know of any real sci-fi that has explored a alien race of plants as she has done in this book. This beautifully written story takes you through a journey of exploration of self, deconstructing of faith, and how one sees oneself. And I normally don't interject personal feelings when I give reviews, but I have to say the following is I feel personally moved by this story because of my background growing up in religion and having to have that departure from religion and deconstructing my own upbringing and faith. This book just takes you through that journey, and I felt very connected to both the religious characters as well as the plant life. How do you connect to plant life? This woman has done it for us. Okay, this is beautiful. I absolutely recommend this book. You need to go and get this book. I got it off of Amazon. Get this book. It is so well written. But Mel, there's a part two. Talk to me. When are you gonna give me part two? Because I'm having the sweats. I need part
Okay.
two.
It's not. I'm writing in the same universe. All of my books are probably
Okay.
going to be in the same universe. So the events of this book is going to carry on into the next book. So, like, one of the characters is going to be in another place and interact with that whole new scene. So, I'm not sure if I'm going to write within this story. I would like
Okay.
to. I would like to write like the fallout of what happens at the very end without telling everybody.
Yes.
Like, there's a huge
Exactly.
fallout at the end, and then maybe explore, because in this story it's just Harmony's voice because she's making a journal telepathically. So you're getting only her perspective, but I would like to just venture out and get the perspectives of all the other people, the religious people, or people who are affected by it. I
Yeah.
also really would like to use the Sprout as a perspective, because kids taking in their world changing is such
Yeah.
a thing. Like, especially the way kids take in information and they're raw with it. And
Oh,
I
absolutely.
like to write characters that are raw, but I want to write more mature characters. But at the same time, it's like the best character to write raw would be a kid. So
Oh yeah, I think so. And having it be a sprout will be so cute.
yeah.
It's just
But,
really adorable.
Sounds
I
really
went to
interesting.
school for. Oh, thank you. I went to school for early childhood education, and I worked in early childhood for so long. Is that when I created this species of animals, of plants, one of the first things I did was develop how they're born and how they grow into adults. And I only used a little bit of it. So their whole
Well, the next book you could put some more in it.
Yeah.
So you got to keep us posted as to when that next book comes out, because I'm definitely looking forward to reading and continuing the journey through this series that you're creating. It is beautiful, guys. You need to get this book and read it. It's absolutely beautiful. But before we call it a night, I just want to let everyone know that our next episode will be April 11th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, when we're going to talk about utopias in sci-fi. Yeah, pros and cons of a utopia, and the different sci-fis that talk about this. So we definitely look forward to having everyone here again. Thank you so much, Mel, for being here. You are always welcome in the Sci-Fi Queens. Absolutely. Guys, if do you have, Mel, anything last minute that you want to share with us for people to know? Anything you want to say?
I think someone may be talking to her, but
Oh, okay. I wanted to give you the opportunity to say, share anything that you haven't shared with us that you want people to know.
You've already shared this before, but I'm telling them again. I'm on a podcast called
Just
The
in
Voices
case they didn't hear
Hyperspace.
it. Yeah.
Where we also talk about sci-fi. We've been doing watch parties and then discussing the episodes that we watch, and we have a lot of fun. We go off subject and talk about politics and mental health and all of their stuff, because sci-fi, some funniest thing I heard was sci-fi is all the genres just in costume. In a sci-fi
really?
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can check me out and all the stuff that I do on melsrebellion.com.
Yes, absolutely. But thank you guys for being here. And we will see you on April 11th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for watching the Sci-Fi Queens. And be sure to support us on all our social medias. And check out our website,